Hello everyone and welcome to BrickCats. My channel is for anyone who enjoys custom LEGO creations, likes saving money, and or those looking to get into custom building. If you're a fan of my channel or are interested in supporting what I do, please consider liking this review, subscribing, or leaving a comment. Each like, subscription, and comment helps others find my channel, and I greatly appreciate your support. Today I'm reviewing Plo Koon's Jedi Interceptor by Caleb Riggs and David Buchholz, distributed by Brickvault. If you're interested in building this or any other Brickvault model, you can take 15% off the cost of your order by using my discount code CATS15. This is an amazing way to support the channel while taking a bite out of the price of the instructions. Without any substitutions, I was getting 5 stores and $115 without shipping and tax, or about $153 with shipping and tax. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in the conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume you bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks and I always purchase the instructions. I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. Plo Koon's Jedi Interceptor, which I believe was named the Blade of Doran, measures about 9.5 inches long, maybe 5 1/3 inches wide, and about 2.5 inches tall. There's no stand included. The one I'm using here is a slightly modified version of Pixel Dan's. Plo Koon's Interceptor is distinctive for its unique color scheme, with the white stripes angling forward on the fuselage. The designers did an excellent job recreating those in my opinion, with some creative parts usage to make the stripes as continuous as possible without making major compromises to the fighter's profile. Up close, you start to see some of the minor trade-offs, namely these 2 white fins with a little bit of standoff from the surrounding hull, and the cannon's profile being a bit too high to only show the black section of the barless stud. Luckily, the shape of the hull minimizes this in my opinion. From most angles, you don't really notice either one. Starting with the nose, there's a little bit of an interruption in the outline of the fighter here, but again, not visible from most angles and necessary to get the color blocking right. The wedges on the upper hull that make up the white stripes add a plate's height to the hull. The raised section of the fighter makes excellent use of the new 5x2 wedges, and that transitions smoothly all the way back to the rear of the fighter. I have this in the Clone Wars configuration with R7-D4 sitting in the centerline position. He does serve a purpose here as these subassemblies right underneath are loose, so the droid head keeps them in place. There's only a few small gaps around the cockpit bubble. I note that while a minifigure fits in here just fine, they're further forward than you might expect, and as a result you need to have the arms raised up a little bit. The cockpit bubble is somewhat held in place by the rear fin assembly, but there's enough give in both this and the cockpit attachment connection that you can open and close it easily enough. Around back, you can see the small greebling sections in between the upper and lower halves of the fuselage, along with the 2 engines and some trans purple engine glow. 2x4 black tiles represent the exhaust vent. These should be in line with the long axis of the fighter, but given the construction method of the wings, this is not possible. On the underside, I haven't been able to find a good Canon picture to confirm, but the designers have at least attempted to keep the color scheme consistent. They've also built in landing gear on the wings and in the center spot here to make this model look more natural if you're using this in some kind of hangar or landscape scene. Overall, this is a great looking model, and the attention and care the designers paid to getting a complicated color scheme as accurate as they did is very impressive. It's unfortunate they didn't include a display stand in the instructions, so that's really the only thing missing for this model as far as I'm concerned. Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter requires 164 elements and 513 pieces. Due to the prevalence of dark blue, or earth blue as LEGO calls it, this model is proportionally more expensive than other models of similar size just because dark blue is not as common a color. If you bought these instructions before January 2026, your parts list calls for 1 each of the wedge 2x1 by 2/3 right, part 29119 in dark blue, and wedge 2x1 by 2/3 left, part 29120 in dark blue. However, there are 2 use in the model for each of them, for the right wedge in steps 84 and 95, and for the left wedge in 88 and 91. Brickvault has fixed this since I let them know about it, but if you were an early buyer, you should update the quantity from 1 to 2 on each of these elements. The full R7-D4 minifigure is listed, part number SW0119. This is certainly a nice minifigure to have, and not as common as R2-D2, so if you want the full figure, then by all means leave it in. For this model, however, you only need the headpiece, and you can get the newest version of this for much less than the full figure. This is part 553 PB059 and came in the recent Microfighter set 75400. The tile round 2x2 with Star Wars Republic pattern, part 4150 PS6, can be rather expensive and usually comes in between $1.50 and $2.50. I really like this tile, but the cost is an issue, then the sticker version, part 4150 PB002B in white, will save you some money. The 2-tile round 1x1 with Star Wars emblem of the Galactic Republic with 8 spokes pattern, part 98138 PB011 are almost certainly going to be very expensive. If you care about this detail, I recommend removing the printed tiles and substituting 2-tile round 1x1 in white, part 98138, and the sticker sheet for set 75333, part number 75333 STK01. You can then cut out the small Republic logos and put them on the plain white round tiles. I will admit this is not the easiest thing to do, and usually it's not the cleanest cut. You definitely need to use a sharp knife like an X-Acto, but from normal viewing distances, no one will be able to tell. I mentioned earlier that dark blue is not as common a color, and there were a few elements I was surprised to find were very expensive on Bricklink. Who knew that dark blue headlight bricks, 1x4 panels, and inverted 75-degree slopes would average $1 each? And the newer 5x2 wedges were over $2 each. Thankfully, the Brick Hunter extension really helps with this model. I use Brick Hunter to check the entire parts list against the Pick-a-Brick inventory. I do have an affiliate link that gives me a small percentage of the value of your purchase, so thank you in advance if you choose to use it. Pick-a-Brick orders over $35 ship for free, and if you spend more than $14 in the bestseller or standard categories, the handling fees are waived. I'll go over those results in the conclusion. Instructions for this model consist of 371 steps, with each part or subassembly added in each step outlined in teal against a white background. For me, this was not particularly easy to see in certain steps, although you usually aren't adding too many pieces per step, so in general it's fairly apparent where the piece or pieces go. I could have used a higher contrast color like red personally. This build does use some fairly advanced techniques, and I think intermediate level builders with a few more complicated custom models will have the best time with it. The build took me about 3 hours total without any pre-sorting ahead of time. There were a few minor quality control issues I found in the instructions. In steps 148 and 222, the headlight brick is floating and remains so until steps 164 and 238, respectively. In steps 196 and 270, I needed a 1x1 round plate with hole on the bar section of the minifigure weapon bar on front, stud on back, part 50018C. Otherwise, the connection in step 197 was very difficult to connect in the first place, and very loose after I finally managed it. In steps 293 and 303, you connect the engine assemblies to the ship. I thought it could be clearer, perhaps with a photo or a tip box, that the engines connect in 2 places, to the clip you add in the steps 117 and 122, as well as towards the rear. Finally, the viewing angle in steps 308 and 320 aren't ideal. From the graphic, it looks like the stud inserts into the 1x1 round plate, however the stud needs to be facing away from the perspective of the builder. And to be fair, I think this is a studio issue, but a tip box will be useful here. These minor issues aside, I have a lot of fun building this model, and it's really impressive how some of the subassemblies come together. This is a very solid model, which I will admit surprised me a little bit. The wings are attached with ball joints, which are very strong, and I haven't experienced any issues with the wing angle not holding up. The landing gear is a little weak, and they really only support the model if the rear landing skids are in a vertical position. I guess I've never seen this fighter in a landed position, so this may be accurate, but if it's a similar scheme to Obi-Wan's Delta 7, the landing skids are usually at an angle. But please let me know if I'm completely missing the boat here. You can pick this model up and swish it to your heart's content. Picking it up is as you'd expect, with your thumb on the cockpit and the fingers underneath. This works just fine. There can be some looseness in the cockpit and the fin assembly, but usually that's just the fin coming a little bit loose from its connection point just behind the cockpit, and it's very easy to replace. I've got the newer Plo Koon and he fits just fine in here. There are studs to keep a minifigure in place inside the cockpit. There's really nothing else to come loose on this model. The stripe detailing can become misaligned, but that's very easy to fix and it's not going to break anything else. So lack of a stand is not a stability issue in my opinion. The model is solid enough that you shouldn't break anything picking it up off a flat surface. Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter is a very impressive model in terms of its appearance and the build process. It makes really good use of some newer elements without which you'd be extremely hard-pressed to come up with ways to get similar shapes. The build experience is fine and the finished product is very sturdy. Like I said in the beginning of the video, without any substitutions, I was getting 5 stores and $115 without shipping and tax, or about $153 with shipping and tax. With my substitutions, the price decreased significantly, and I got 4 stores and $77 without shipping and tax, or about $106 with shipping and tax. And then taking full advantage of Pick-a-Brick with the Brick Hunter extension, my Pick-a-Brick total was $46, and this included $3 of padding to eliminate the handling fee for standard parts. This did not include any shipping, but also included tax. My Bricklink total, I had to buy 13 elements, and that would have come from 3 stores for $11 without shipping and tax, or about $30 with shipping and tax, for a grand total of $76. I was pretty happy with the Pick-a-Brick price results. Savings of over 50% are pretty unusual, and this is kind of a perfect storm of relative rarity of the dark blue elements on Bricklink, but the same elements being available on Pick-a-Brick. Instructions for this model cost $16.99 from BrickVault's web store. And note that you get the instruction set for Mace Windu's Delta 7 as well. There will be a link to where you can buy those in the description below, and remember you can use the discount code CATS15 for 15% off if you haven't already used it. BrickVault runs sales fairly frequently, so keep an eye out for one of those if you're on the fence. My code does work even on sale items, and it is one-time use per email. Thanks as always for watching my review of Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter by Caleb Riggs and David Buchholz. If you've built the model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave your thoughts below in the comments. As always, I'm very conscious that subscribers are earned and not deserved, so if you enjoy my content and want to see more, consider subscribing, leave the video a like or a comment, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. Thank you, and I hope to see you back next time.